Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Astotara Sati Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Astotara Sati Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nantakoti Vaishnav Vrindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय। श्री नवद्वीप मायपुर धाम की जय। श्री मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी महारानी की जय, सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय। Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. All glories to the simple devotees. Krishna, all glories to the simple devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the simple devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistuki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 8. Dhruva Maharaj leaves home, text number 30. Word for word. Atha Matra Upadistena Yogena Avarurusashi Yat Prashadam Sa Vai Pumsham Duraradhyo mato mama ata matropadishtena yogena avarutsashi yat prasadam savai pumsham durarajyo mato mama ata matropadishtena yogena avarutsashi yat prasadam savai pumsham durarajyo mato mama ata matropadishtena yogena varurutsashi yat prasadam savai pumsham durarajyo mato mama ata upadistena yogena avarurutsasi yat prasadam savai pumsham duraradhyo mano mama Varutsasi na mama sena Varutsasi sena word for word translation. Atha, therefore, matra, by your mother, upadishtena, being instructed, yogena, by mystic meditation, avarurutsashi, want to elevate yourself, yat prasadam, whose mercy, saha, that, vai, certainly, pumsham, of the living entities, duraradhya, very difficult to perform, mata, opinion, Mama, my. Translation. Now you have decided to undertake the mystic process of meditation under the instruction of your mother, just to achieve the mercy of the Lord. But in my opinion, such austerities are not possible for any ordinary man. It is very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Please repeat. Now you have decided to undertake the mystic process of meditation under the instruction of your mother, just to achieve the mercy of the Lord. But in my opinion, such austerities are not possible for any ordinary man. It is very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The process of Bhakti Yoga is simultaneously very difficult and very easy to perform. Sri Narad Muni, the Supreme Spiritual Master, is testing Dhruva Maharaj to see how determined he is to prosecute devotional service. This is the process of accepting a disciple. The great sage Narad has come to Dhruva under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead just to initiate him. Yet, he is testing Dhruva's determination to execute the process. It is a fact, however, that for a sincere person, devotional service is very easy. But for one who is not determined and sincere, this process is very difficult. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurul Militam Yena Tasme Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Thamsajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Satadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Namah Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatha Dashatharini Vancha Kalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patithanam Pabinebhyo Vaishnavbheyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation. Now you have decided to undertake the mystic process of meditation under the instruction of your mother, just to achieve the mercy of the Lord. But in my opinion, such austerities are not possible for any ordinary man. It is very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada writes in the beginning of his purport, the process of bhakti yoga is simultaneously very difficult and very easy to perform. And you'll find at the end of the purport, Prabhupada is giving us suggestions. It is a fact, however, that for a sincere person, devotional service is very easy. So, if you are sincere, Prabhupada is saying devotional service is very easy. But for one who is not determined and sincere, this process is very difficult. So Prabhupada is very nicely telling us that if you are sincere, devotional service is very easy. But for one who is not determined and sincere, the path is very difficult. So, for many of us, we always look at devotional service to be difficult because we want to improve. Always be alert and attentive. So we look at it as being difficult. Otherwise, if we think it's easy, then we'll be sleeping in every morning. We'll be taking it easy. And this is like opening cracks for Maya to attack. So our mood should be, it's very difficult. I have to follow the process that Prabhupada is giving. I have to follow the instructions of my Guru. I have to accept the instructions of the senior devotees. Because this is the real shelter that we have. The instructions of practically everyone except our own mind. Our mind is our best friend and our worst enemy. So this is the shelter we have, is that the instructions that are there by our mentors, our seniors, our gurus, our Shiksha gurus, Diksha gurus, and ultimately Srila Prabhupada. This is how we can become determined by thinking this process is difficult, but it is the best thing for me. This will increase your determination, make you determined to stay in Krishna consciousness. And then Prabhupada is saying, if we become sincere and determined, devotional service is very easy. So we have to always be attentive and never to think it is easy. Because when it's easy, then we become a little lax, we take it easy, and as a result, soon we'll be out back at home or going to work and things like that. So we'll read a little about determination, how to increase our determination, and we'll see some examples that Prabhupada gives. And one nice example that we've probably experienced or heard of that took place in the 80s. It's a very wonderful example of determination. So in Bhagavad Gita chapter 16 verses 1 to 3, there's a list of transcendental qualities that's given by Lord Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covertness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion of honor. These are transcendental qualities. O son of Bharata, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. So in the purport, Prabhupada gives the definition of determination. Achaphalam, determination, means that one should not be agitated or frustrated in some attempt. There may be failure in some attempt, but one should not be sorry for that. He should make progress with patience and determination. Very nice, clear description of determination. Also, how to develop the determination. Prabhupada writes in the book, The Path of Perfection. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Gaur Hari ki jai, Tulsi Maharani ki jai, Guru Parampara ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is one aspect, what Prabhupada is stressing on, how to develop determination. And it's found in the book, The Path of Perfection. Prabhupada writes, refraining from sex enables one to be very determined and powerful. It is not necessary to do anything else. This is a secret people are not aware of. If you want to do something with determination, you have to refrain from sex, regardless of the process. Be it Hatha Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, or whatever else. Sex indulgence is not allowed. Sex is only allowed for householders who want to beget good children and raise them in Krishna consciousness. By taking advantage and indulging in sex life, we are simply wasting our time. Very clear and very bold statements by Prabhupada, but he is helping us by writing this. Is how clear it is. Prabhupada continues, as stated before, this determination can be attained only by one who does not indulge in sex. Celibacy makes one's determination strong. Therefore, from the very beginning, Krishna states that the yogi does not engage in sex. If one indulges in sex, one's determination will be flickering. Therefore, sex life should be controlled according to the rules and regulations governing the Grihastha ashram, or sex should be given up altogether. Actually, it should be given up altogether. But if it is not possible, it should be controlled. Then determination will come, because after all, determination is a bodily affair. Determination means continuing to practice Krishna consciousness with patience and perseverance. If one does not immediately attain the desired result, one should not think, what is this Krishna consciousness? I will give it up. No, we must have determination and faith in Krishna's words. And this is some ideas on determination that Prabhupada is helping us with, how to become determined, what it means, what is the best practice. We are trapped in this body. And these are the problems with this body. The senses are so strong that at every second we are being influenced to enjoy this body. Every second, how can I enjoy? How can I enjoy? And it becomes a big problem in spiritual life. Some who are following nicely and others who are struggling. So we have to remain strong. and make sure we try our best to follow. So this example of Dhruva Maharaj is probably one of the best examples of determination, and we are going through this section now in Srimad Bhagavatam. And we'll find in the history of ISKCON, there's so many wonderful examples of the determination of the devotees to serve Srila Prabhupada, to help Prabhupada to push on the movement. And there are so many, some are not recorded, but just by hearing from devotees of the austerities they performed. But one that was recorded, we actually read in a book called Salted Bread. This book explains the austerities and especially the determination of two young boys who were childhood friends, Sarva Bhavana Prabhu and Sachi Sutta Prabhu. They were young boys in a little town in Armenia, Yerevan, and they were childhood friends. They would do everything together. So Sarva Bhavana Prabhu, he was introduced to Krishna consciousness by another friend, and he went to the temple or the preaching center in Yerevan. This was when Russia was, it was still communist countries, and they were very strict on religion and especially preaching of religion and things like that. And this book clearly explains the difficult situations in which the devotees were preaching. Of course, from Srila Prabhupada's Leela Amrita, we read of Prabhupada's visit to Moscow, and he met one devotee. He made one devotee who was a young boy, and he became the first Hare Krishna devotee, and by his mercy, Krishna consciousness is flourishing in Russia. But we find in the 80s of these two young boys who became devotees, and they became very serious devotees. They were practicing, they were doing everything. And they were doing things that ultimately was feared by devotees to do, was to go out and distribute books. And it was a very serious offense. If you were caught, you would be taken into police custody, you'll be punished severely, and you'll be put into prison for a while. And if the case was very serious, you had long-term jail sentences. So these two boys, they took up Krishna consciousness, and they felt they should go out and help others. So they were distributing books. It was amazing how the books were printed in Russian. They would get it printed and shipped to Armenia, and they would do everything, the binding and everything. And some of them only had copies. It's mentioned that when others who wanted to borrow their personal copies, they would make copies of it and bind the book and give it to them, because they didn't want to give away their personal copies. That's how much they treasured Prabhupada's books. So, unfortunately, these two devotees, they were eventually caught distributing books, and they were taken to prison, and they were interrogated in the most horrible way just to get information, because they found at that time that this Hare Krishna movement was growing despite the heavy restrictions on religion and things like that. They found that the devotees were going underground, and somehow they were distributing books, and many people were joining the Hare Krishna movement. So all the police wanted to know was one question, basically. So I'll read a little excerpt. I had forgotten how many times they had arrested and released me. This is Sarva Bhavana Prabhu speaking. But at the time of sannyasa and Kamala Mala's arrest, these are two other devotees. I thought that because the police were now convinced that they had the leaders in our movement in Armenia, they wouldn't be arresting the rest of any of us. But I was wrong. The police arrested me and some other devotees many times after that. During this time, we rented another house to store the books and important items, and we would go there perhaps once a week. At about 8 o'clock one evening, Sati Sutta and I were going to the house, bringing some missing Gita pages to complete the books. At that time, I had a strange premonition while riding on the bus. I asked Sati Sutta if he had the same feeling. He said that he also felt there was some danger. But we did not know what to do and which way to go, forward or backward. Both of us had such strong feelings of danger that we decided to go back without taking any further pages of the books. I do not remember any incident of Sati Sutta's stepping back from any situation ever. Once we were arrested, one fat policeman hurt me the most, even stomping my toes with his boots, giving me excruciating pain. So, he said while hurting me. So this is the policeman speaking. Now I think you can tell me where your books are printed and where are you storing them. This is all the police in Russia wanted to know from the Hare Krishna devotees. And further we'll read again when he was again sentenced and put into jail for a long-term sentence. In my new jail, the worst guard was a very rough, sweaty man. He shouted, "Today you will tell me exactly where you are printing your books and who was printing them for you. I know you did not tell it to anyone, but you will tell me today, only me. Do you understand that?" So this is what the police wanted to know, where the books were printing, who the books were printed by, and where the books were stored. But as we read that book, Salted Bread, they never gave in, these devotees, Sati Sutta and Sarva Bhuvana Prabhus. They simply tolerated the punishment that they were receiving. They never gave in exactly who. And they wanted to know who the leader of the Hare Krishnas, who at that time was His Grace Harikesh Prabhu. They never gave any information, and they simply tolerated the punishment that they received in prison. And so many things went on in prison, and how Krishna helped them was amazing when we read that book. But it's probably such a sad story that devotees had to go through that. And they never gave up their Krishna consciousness. They would make beads out of the bread that was wet. They would create beads. And initially they couldn't make 108 beads. And then they would just reduce the amount, like half the amount, 54 and 27. So they could keep the beads, these beads that they made of bread, and they could chant their rounds. So it's amazing, and unfortunately, they also quite vividly and explicitly explain or relate the punishment that they went through. It was quite horrifying. And unfortunately, Sati Sutta Prabhu, he died in prison, and his passing is such a great example how he knew that his time was up, He took his bath, he dressed, he somehow applied tilak, and he was sitting and chanting, and that's how he left his body in prison. And Sarvabhauma, unfortunately, as a result of the torture that he received in prison, he had lifelong problems with his spine and eyesight. And this is a great example of determination. That for them, they felt that they will never give up, they will never tell the police where the books were coming from, they will never give the information of their leader, Harikesh Prabhu. And of course, he was doing so much at that time, creating awareness of the situation of the Russian devotees with the different governments of the world, staging protests outside buildings and things like that. And it was such a great build-up to what was to come later in the 1980s, around when formally ISKCON was accepted, and it was a registered spiritual organization. And finally in 1989, the first group of Hare Krishna devotees went to India. They went to Calcutta and Mayapur, and they were received so wonderfully. And Sarva Bhavana Prabhu was also part of that group. So this is such a great example of determination. And their determination that they simply accepted the severe punishment that they received, and they didn't give any information to the police and things like that. So this is a great example of determination. Also, one of the first examples that we come across of determination is found in Bhagavad Gita, which Prabhupada says. Let's read that quickly. In Bhagavad Gita 6:24 translation, one should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith, and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon, without exception, all material desires born of mental speculation, and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. So Prabhupada gives a nice example. Prabhupada writes, as for determination, one should follow the example of the sparrow who lost her eggs in the waves of the ocean. A sparrow laid her eggs on the shore of the ocean, but the big ocean carried away the eggs on its waves. The sparrow became very upset and asked the ocean to return her eggs. The ocean did not even consider her appeal. So the sparrow decided to dry up the ocean. She began to pick out the water with a small beak, and everyone laughed at her for her impossible determination. The news of her activity spread, and at last Garuda, the gigantic bird carrier of Lord Vishnu, heard it. He became compassionate towards his small sister bird, and so he came to see the sparrow. Garuda was very pleased with the determination of the small sparrow, and he promised to help her. Thus Garuda at once asked the ocean to return her eggs, lest he himself take up the work of the sparrow. The ocean was frightened at this and returned the eggs. Thus the sparrow became happy by the grace of Garuda. Similarly, the practice of yoga, especially bhakti yoga in Krishna consciousness, may appear to be a very difficult job. But if anyone who follows the principles with great determination, the Lord will surely help. For God helps those who help themselves. Again, very nice instructions by Srila Prabhupada. God or Krishna will help you if you try to help yourself. How we try to help ourselves, Prabhupada is giving. Simply follow the process. It is free. You simply follow, and then Krishna will see your determination, and he will send help all the time. So, some nice points we've read, especially from Prabhupada's books, about determination. And we should always be alert in our practice of Krishna consciousness. Never think, I'm okay now. I've come up to this point, or whatever the case may be. Till the day we die, we have to be on our toes. Be determined, and always think that this process is difficult. And try and follow, as Prabhupada is saying. The process of bhakti in Krishna consciousness may appear very difficult, a very difficult job, but if anyone follows the principles with great determination, the Lord will surely help. For God helps those who help themselves. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop there and take your comments and questions.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. It's very touching stories about. I read the book Salted Bread many years ago. And it's amazing what they went through, And I also saw Bhagavad Gita. It was a machine saw. They stitched it while in prison. And I saw the beads also. Somebody brought a set here. I think the Jivana Swami may have brought. Made of bread dough. So the determination, as you said, was to spread Krishna consciousness in such trying adverse conditions. Of course, the Prabhupada is the determination of Prabhupada to come to the West was the all-encompassing factor that encouraged everyone about being determined, about spreading Krishna conscious movement. Also in Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse, Vyasyatmika buddhir, ekaha kuru nandana. One must follow this process with single-minded determination, and that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in that mood, one should practice Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. So thank you for the nice class. I was just going to make a comment that another example of determination from the scriptures, from Chaitanya Charitamrita, is Haridas Thakur, who was being allured by a prostitute, but he kept on chanting and he never gave in. So we see this is an example of determination, where he was put in such a situation, but with his determination he succeeded. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.